A revolutionary. Say whoa. Trap revolutionary. Got the wave of too scary. Doing this thing like Malcolm ain't by any means necessary. We ain't got it by no one seen hand. We got the master plan. Get the move.
What's going on, y'all? Y'all wanna do this video real quick, man? Talk about Nolan Wells again. Reports came back on the autopsy, showing that basically his body parts were missing that they did not provide to do so the independent autopsy could be fully completed. They said the doctor that did the independent autopsy said that he could not complete the autopsy. So, in conclusion, he said that basically his death would be undetermined, but he did not rule out possible a possible cause of death that precluded accidental death, or nothing happening or nothing occurring to Nolan Wells that could cause his death by way of an accident. So basically he didn't rule that out, that it could have been something else that caused his death. But he said the throat, I believe the lungs were not received, but he says in some cases, if the coroner is doing a further investigation, they could keep that for those results, or to further investigate it. But he did say they did not receive the throat, and the lungs, from what I understand. So he could complete, basically what he's saying, he could not complete the autopsy. So that's what is specified, with today by Attorney Ben Crump, that the independent autopsy report, those findings by Dr. Roger Mitchell Jr., and that's what it specified, that he found a 12 by 8 inch area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissue on the back of his head, basically leaving the cause and manner of death undetermined. So that is, basically giving them, I guess, unclear cause. But what I would say, they didn't receive that throat, lungs, I believe, area of his body, because they say the other parts of his body, the organs, will, be taken out. Like you're basically, this is like, they're doing a performing autopsy, from what I, kind of way they explain is like, look, this autopsy goes like this. All the body parts are coming out and they putting on the tape, kind of like Miss Potato Head. You got all these body parts, you put them together, or all the organs are taken out, put them on the table, investigate, and then put them in the body, send them on, for whatever, if it's an independent investigation, whatever, independent autopsy, for those purposes, you send them on with the body in a bag inside the body. But like he said, the throat was not received. If this is a bigger cover up, it's gonna be crazy, because what I think is that if it's a bigger cover up, that they kept that because they didn't want to show possibly his throat was crushed, some type of form of strangulation or something like that. Trachea, like disfigured, whatever, neck, that area, lungs, whatever, maybe disfigured. So this is what they said, and that's what I was saying, like the missing neck structures. They said part of his throat and neck were missing during the independent autopsy, so it prevented that pathologist, the doctor that did the independent autopsy, Dr. Roger Mitchell Jr., from actually concluding the cause of death, because he couldn't finish that independent autopsy. He couldn't rule it out, the neck trauma out, because he didn't have a neck. He didn't have where he could do the independent investigation of the neck area. So, man, it's just unfortunate. Like I said, it just, man, I hope they ain't getting down dirty like that, man, in Mississippi. Like, I really do. I really hope they're not getting down dirty like that, man, because now that, basically it's the official cover up. The authorities are playing this game. Now they're involved now in the cover up. So I just, man, I hope that's not what it is. But when I heard that, that's what I was saying. Like, oh, okay, they really getting down dirty. You know what I'm saying? They done kept the whole region, of his neck area, kept that. So there could be no discovery, of blunt force injury, some form of, like I said, the crushing or, strangulation, of that area. So they actually could determine, like, hey, he was strangled. His throat was cut. He was, his throat was crushed, whatever it may have been, So that's major, another thing, that's another thing, decomposition. So they said the further out it gets, when the body is, being, basically when autopsy is being performed, the body's decomposing. The body's not, the body's steady decomposing. So that's another thing, I was saying, okay, so they don't have the neck structures, then you're wanting, or it seems like, for the body to further decompose. So you cannot tell what happened. Because I know the doctor, Dr. Mitchell or whatever, he mentioned that, so he mentioned that, basically the furtherance of the decomposition of the body, you can't really tell, the further you get along with that, the body is a big body decomposing, you can't tell what happened. You know what I'm saying? It's like, unless I guess it's just like you just, it's, just a total disconfiguration or some form of, I think burn, some body was bruised badly or burned badly. So, that's another case. I'm just like, man, I just hope, I hope, man, that this ain't an official cover up, but basically they did not receive his complete, body, and parts of his body. That's what I'm thinking. Just like I said with the body, them doing the independent autopsy and it not being, everything not coming out yet. I already just feel like, man, it was foul play.
Tonight, newly released autopsy results are raising more questions about how Nolan Wells died. An independent exam commissioned by his family's legal team classified the cause and manner of death for the 18-year-old as undetermined pending investigation.
He's saying based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play. That is significant.
The forensic pathologist wrote there were no fractures, cuts, or bruises on Nolan's body, but noted red discoloration was found on the back of his head and needs more investigation. The autopsy was performed 4 days after his body was found. The pathologist also writing there were missing parts of the neck.
Have you or he asked anyone for access to those things?
Hopefully that the medical examiner will allow him to come and examine the throat, also to talk about observations that they had, and so they could share information.
It is not unusual for a state medical examiner to keep parts for further evaluation. Former medical examiner Dr. Priya Banerjee reviewed the autopsy report.
I think the best thing we can take away is that there's no identifiable trauma.
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is still investigating what happened after Nolan went to Horn Island in a boat with friends on July 4th. His body was found 2 days later washed ashore there. Today, the family's attorney noted the doctor was unable to examine the airways and lungs for water to determine drowning. In a recent interview, Warren Hudson says he'd been friends with Nolan since they were kids. Hudson said they frequently went boating and they went to Horn Island with a large group of friends on July 4th.
Everybody's drinking, it's 4th of July. Everyone's just trying to enjoy themselves. Okay, Aaron Gilchrist joins us now. Aaron, the big question still remains here, and still no toxicology results?
Tom, the family's legal team is still waiting for the toxicology report from the state, and the medical examiner's office tells us today it will share appropriate information when the investigation is complete.
I said it was foul play, but I wasn't gonna jump to a conclusion. You know, now they just interviewed Nolan's, I think his name was Officer, I don't know, whatever the show was, Officer interviewed Nolan Wells' friend, Officer Tatum, you know, and his friend is saying that he didn't, you know, he basically was friends with Nolan Wells, and basically he was a good friend of Nolan, wouldn't do anything to harm him. Warren Hudson, he's coming out, you know what I'm saying, is saying this. So, you know, and then other people saying, okay, he wasn't at the funeral, you know, so it kind of funny that, you know, he's just now coming out saying this. So how is it that he was such a good friend of Nolan's? His mother, Judge Ashley Cole, I know her name is Ashley, couldn't just think of it, but Judge Ashley Cole. So, you know, she actually Jackson County Chancery Court. You know, she's a stepmother, whatever, biological mother is Katie Hudson Seymour. So, you know, that's just, man, I'm just thinking in this sense that it's more of a collusion. I believe they are colluding. People are colluding. And that's from, you know, official collusion to you know, the friends, you know, and their parents colluding in this case to cover up what really happened to Nolan Wells, you know. So, you know, that's, man, it's crazy. If the officials, you know, like I said, the so-called officials, the authorities are, you know, seeking to cover up this matter. Like I said, keeping Nolan's throat structures and his, I believe, lung structures, so they cannot, like I said, pinpoint, like actually determine, say, man, this is what really caused the death, you know, of Nolan, you know, and actually, you know, pinpoint that and conclude like, hey, this is how he died, you know. Then it's not good at all, you know. So, yeah, from my understanding, his throat structure was missing, and lung structure was missing. They done did that, man, and they sit there and kept that on purpose. Okay, so it says lung structures weren't missing, but they said it basically, but they could not be properly examined during the second. That's what's important. So that body decomposes. They said his lung structures were not physically missing from his body, but they could not be properly examined during the second autopsy because they had already been dissected. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, man, completely, yeah, his internal neck structures, which were completely withheld by the state medical examiner for further investigation. You know. So basically, however, the handling of the lungs still created a major hurdle for the independent investigation. You know, so, and it said why the lungs couldn't be checked for drowning prior to dissection during the initial state conducted autopsy. Say Nolan's internal organs, including his lungs, airway, and stomach, were removed and cut open as part of the standard forensic protocol. Inability to observe. You're saying because the lungs and airway were already altered and dissected, Dr. Mitchell noted in his report that he faced a most significant limitation and could not directly inspect the lungs for water or the stomach for gastric contents. So the drowning It's unconfirmed. So without being able to see how the lungs look when originally recovered, the independent team cannot definitively confirm or rule out the drown. Yeah, he drowned. So, I don't know, man. But it said Attorney Crump is working to get basically original photos, like of the autopsy report, after his body was recovered and they performed the initial autopsy. So, they said, yeah, he's working to obtain original autopsy photographs and microscopic tissue slides of the lungs and other organs from the Mississippi investigative team to fill the gaps of the autopsy report and findings that they couldn't find, things they couldn't determine, so, it's sad, man. Like, I mean, I would hope Mississippi coroner's office, medical examiner's office, they're not colluding in this case, but it damn near look like a collusion, man. I hate to say it, it looks like they are all colluding together to cover what had happened in this case, But anyway, man, I'm gonna get up off here, and I just want to get on here and say that and just provide information on this, because like I said, I'm interested in it just like everybody else, and I have my own theory of what happened, and that's basically like he was murdered. It was a homicide, and they dumped his body, and then they all colluded to cover up the truth. That's from deleting things on his cell phone, them not contacting the parents, not going to help the parents look for his body, not actually getting on social media. And it wasn't until one person, Warren Hudson, getting on social media just now. No one else is saying anything. People deleting accounts, Judge deleting his mother, deleting her account, Sheriff John Ledbetter just automatically coming out saying, "Oh, it was, no, we don't know, we don't notice any foul play. We don't believe it was any foul play." Outright, just coming out saying it as soon as they recovered his body, So it's like, man, everybody's colluding, And this is why I said in the prior video, this is a sign of incompetency. They are incompetent. That's basically where I'm putting them now. Because I'm all day, every day, which it's a race factor involved. But in that sense as well, in the aspect of race, a bias, the mishandling of this case is incompetency. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need to focus on. These people are incompetent down here to be able to handle business and truthfully come forward with evidence. It's incompetent all day, every day, and that's what we need to focus on, man. These folks need to go. You know what I'm saying? You can't do your job by being partial, biased, because it's somebody black. So that's the problem. We need to get out these people, and this is everywhere across the nation. We talking about everywhere across the nation. Get out these people that's incompetent. That's what we need to focus on. Yeah, so, I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna keep saying it. That's even in Carmelo Anthony's case. Those people were incompetent, the judge, the prosecutor, and even his attorney. So that's what we need to focus on, you know what I'm saying? As a people, we need to get the people out that are incompetent and causing our detriment, our demise, our harm. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what I would say, man. We need to really focus on getting the people out that's incompetent, and every day, all day, work on that. Getting people out of office that are incompetent, wherever they sit, wherever they stand, wherever they may be, because we can't have that. It's unacceptable. And every level, local, state, federal, need to get them out the way. But anyway, man, I'm gonna get up off here. I just want to say that. I hope y'all out there doing well, living life for love and happiness. doing great, striving greatness every day. You know, I appreciate y'all out there looking, checking out my videos, liking, sharing, commenting. You know, like I said before, we can agree or disagree. We disagree, hey, we can hash it out. You know, I'm always be respectful towards y'all. I ask y'all to be respectful towards me. Anyway, y'all, we get up out of here. Till next one, y'all. All right, y'all. Love y'all. All right, y'all.
Fuck it, go ahead and blow off the dough. Step through the maze, man, and became amazing. About to rewrite history and change a page in a crooked book that never told us the true story. Like how we were kings and queens before the slave story, before the killing, stealing, and drug dealing on some real shit. We ran the world.